Some people say why, I say why not. Hey, Andrew A.J. Johnson here. I just wanted to quickly answer this question because I haven't really talked about it before, and I thought it was a very interesting question. Why the nostalgia? Why do I seem to gravitate towards things that are retro or vintage or considered old school? For my subscribers and orbiters and potentially new viewers, you will notice on my YouTube channel quite a lot of nostalgic themes. My original music is very much a take on a type of tradition in music, despite the fact that it's very experimental and a lot of artistic liberties and creativity on my part. It still adheres to a certain kind of tradition. Not only my original songs, but pretty much everything that's on my channel has ties to the past, whether that's my Michael Jackson impersonator, the Disco Drew character, the sounds, the topics, my autobiographical storytelling. It's all very much orientated in the past. So why is that, AJ? I think that to start with, it's the sense of it that's warmth and soothing that's part of the nostalgia that I like, and I think a lot of people can relate to that. Nostalgia has that quality, and I suppose it's a particular style. I suppose in that idea of the 70s, 80s, 90s, there's ties to childhood and just that sort of feeling like you're nurtured in some way. And it's kind of ironic because I think that hindsight shows us that actually in the past, people were perhaps more maybe rough around the edges than they appear in song and in the movies and television. But there's this perception of the media of the 70s, 80s, and 90s it just feels very warm and fuzzy, and I suppose that has to do with the technology at the time, the analog sound that I, as an artist, try to replicate. And it's kind of a funny thing to spend all this time creating music and then turn around and try to sort of degrade or distort what I've just done, like a very clean sounding recording, and then I try to make it sound as if it's from 1952 or whatever. I think that it's also something about that that's tied in with the hiss that is not present in digital media as often, and that sort of ambient sound and that sense of humanity, and it's more connected to nature in a way. Well, I've often thought about this. I don't know why I'm drawn so much into that, if it is just a very human thing of looking for nature in this kind of digital world here. And maybe it's just a matter of taste and style. But so what I'm saying is, it's definitely the warmth of it, of the nostalgia that draws you in. We're warm-blooded creatures, so, of course, as mammals, part of our connection to the animal kingdom, if you will, is that warmth of it, that sometimes digital music just doesn't quite have that same sense of it. In a way, I feel that nostalgia is, it's an important piece for humans at this time, because it's not necessarily a going back to, but it's a carrying on of a very familiar ritual or a tradition. It's just, I can't really envision music really without that grounded sense of it that's still connected to who I am as a human being. The second thing about why I'm into nostalgia as a theme in my art and what I like to talk about and things is because I feel there's so much that's unexpressed about what happened in the past. I know for a fact that musically speaking, music evolves faster than what artists can keep up with. So in my mind, I think there's so much that was still left unexplored from those decades. And I'm just an extension of that. I'm still there because there was so much more that could be created from that sound, from that idea that they had there. But, because of commercialization, corporatization, a lot of stuff was turned away or not looked at because it was considered, it's like you couldn't sell it. So why would you, record that idea? So to me, I just feel there's so much more that I try to bring into my art and say, it could have been like this, and it could have been like this too. There could have been a melody that went like this, or there could have been a sound that, did this. It's also due to affordability as well, why why my music sounds the way it does. I don't really have access to all the latest sounds and technologies. So as an independent creator, I'm often working with stuff that was kind of abandoned, but I kind of pick up the pieces of that material and I want to create a gem out of that. I want to find the treasure in that abandoned material, abandoned sound. I think there's just so much there in terms of nostalgia to this day that's left unexpressed. And that, I guess, if you think about it, in the history of music, there's still probably more musical compositions that could be written in a classical style or 1920s rag or jazz style. There's so much still that I believe in music just hasn't really been done because people haven't allowed it to, because it wasn't something that was popular. And, it doesn't escape me, the sort of profound nature that I've been able to sing songs like The Very Thought of You or When I Fall in Love or some of those older traditional standard songs that were really reserved for a particular group of people, that someone like me wasn't really meant to sing those songs to an audience. And for what it means to me to reflect, and the audience understands it from my perspective when I'm singing as the person that I am. That the point is there were people and groups of people that weren't really allowed to sing certain songs or felt they couldn't. So here I am in the 21st century and saying, well, I can sing those songs. And it's not just one group that's allowed to express their love, to dance the way they would like to dance. I think that may have gone missed along my journey here of what I have been really doing, what I feel is healing some of those parts in the past and saying, there was more here, and there's more people that can enjoy these pieces. You're welcome to sing this too. You're welcome to play this too, And so in this area of unexpressed ideas, I think that's what is really the driving force behind what I do and how I explore the decades. There really was no space for an Andrew Johnson in 1950s art or 1980s art and 90s art, that even to this day, a lot of people don't certainly don't really understand me or why I'm doing the things I'm doing and in the way I'm doing it. It's because I love music, but it's also saying I can occupy this space too. There's room for me too, and in a way that just wasn't available historically. And I think that there's something about that, picking up the pieces of lost history there. I think it opens up to so many more possibilities. And hopefully this leads into my next point. The third thing is that in the past, music was a little less complicated. Music of the past, it wasn't necessarily about vibing with a specific group. It's more that there was a mass media and that everyone kind of knew the same thing. When you delve into nostalgia, there's something about that idea that everyone's on the same page. And that's something that I think is kind of missing in the world today. And finding those places where maybe we're coming at it from different angles, we're using different language, different ideas, but coming around to the same thing, that we're talking about the same thing. And that's what could make those songs recognizable and familiar, is because, well, back in the day, you only had maybe 3 channels. And, there was only so much music that was kind of going around. So you didn't really have that much choice as it is today, where you have unlimited, overwhelming choices to make in terms of your entertainment and news you'd like to consume, etc. I think the idea of less complication, and not to say that everything's perfect about what mass media was, because now it's specialized markets. But there was something that was connecting about the time of mass media where you could have artists say something and it kind of meant something, because that's why we don't really have like an Elvis or a Michael Jackson or the Beatles in the world today, because people are off in their own world. People aren't necessarily aware of the same stuff that's going on. I think there was something that was kind of easier about, these were the 6 things that we know, and everybody can clap along to those things because that's all that we know at the time. So I don't know if that makes any sense, but there was an endearing quality of that sense of ease, of everyone kind of gathering around the television screen or going to the theater, that collective experience that just wasn't so fragmented and it wasn't as polarized and divisive. It was just, this is what we're watching. These are the stories that we're passing down and we're telling. Well, now it's just, choose your own adventure kind of thing. It's a very interesting area of thought. And another reason why I feel so drawn to the nostalgia is because as a human, I kind of like the Goldilocks area of choice, where it's not overwhelming and it's not just meat and potatoes, but it's grounded in something that everyone can follow along. You see, that's what I love about it, and expressing nostalgia. This is all that you got for the time, and you just work with what you have, and this is the time we're allotted, and here you are. So yes, it's not having to play for very specific groups and subcultures and uncoding information so this group gets it and this other group. It's very much, I'm just talking to a human being. It's a song, I'm singing a song, or I'm telling a story, I'm writing to a human being out there, and something that tries to get to the heart of the matter. It's just more simple and easy. and why I think I've gravitated towards nostalgia. The smorth. Wow. The fourth thing about why I really like nostalgia is because I am a thinking person and I enjoy thinking, and nostalgia is wrapped up in that, and it can be detrimental to a point because it gets into this thing of rumination, and that it is arguably connected to things like depression and anxiety. There's also something that's not so bad about being reflective, thinking, and insightful, and that is just who I am. There's a part of nostalgia that I think it is part of me. In a way, I'm able to separate my illness out of it. I'm trying to take that out of it. I think there is something about me. It's been said to me before, there's something about me and the way I sing and when I present myself, it can bring people back to a sense of their childhood. I don't know why I'm that way, but there's something about me, just the playfulness, openness, exploring, adventurous parts of myself just kind of awakens that wonder and that curiosity in people. It's not something that I've ever talked about before, but I think it's the healing part of who I am. There's something just about me that is that. It brings you right back to some of those things that, despite how everything's changed in the world, there are still some things that never change. There are still those values and those memories that is tattooed and is stained there in time. Hopefully it is good things that I can stir up. But I don't even know how to explain it. If it's just that because I've been surrounded by therapy for since my childhood, that there's just a therapeutic quality about my being that I just absorbed. And growing up in a household of nurses and being very closely connected to the healthcare field and psychiatric care, that I just absorbed that, and I am kind of a vehicle for healing and through my art. I think it's just a part of me that I never really set out to do that, because I was just playing with sounds, topics, things that made me feel like doing something. Everything that I've ever recorded or done, there had to be some kind of reasoning. There was some drive there. Like when I'm singing a song and I'm composing it, I'm making the chords, I'm selecting individual bass, the bass and the drums and strings and bells and everything. All of that, it has to do something for me to make me feel like I need to add to that, and that can go this way and that way. That's how I work. It's a process, and for some reason I'm saying it's just me. It's just who I am. It's those sounds that I guess maybe I just never grew out of it. In some ways, I'm very much an old soul. I can say things that are very wise and mature sounding. At the same time, there's this other side of me that's still I never quite dropped those older sounds. And I never thought there was anything wrong with it. And I don't mind being thought of as this nostalgic, retro person that is continuing on that lineage of a particular style or fashion. I do it in my own unique way, but it's because I enjoy it. Well, as I said, I am a thinking person, a reflective person. It's built into me, and I've enjoyed sharing it, really. Okay, and the last thing, not to end this on a bum note, but I have been known to hit pretty bum notes too, so the last thing, the fifth thing about the nostalgia with me is that it is certainly connected to grief. Unresolved, compounded grief. Why that manifests in me and the way that I do my art. And what I'm about to say, I suppose it might be upsetting in ways, and I might look back on it later and think, maybe I shouldn't have said it quite like that. But I think that all of the things that I have been through in my life, it's made me who I am today. And not that it was fair, and not that it was okay, and it wasn't right. But it made me who I am. And I think that's true for so many artists that people can recognize. I mean, there's this part of artistry that the completed piece of work, whether it's a song, a writing, or a sculpture, or a painting, there certainly is a reflection and an expression of that artist's lived reality, their pain, their suffering, their grief, their illness. I could name off a bunch of examples here, but I'm sure you know what I mean. That their illness played a part in the outcome of their art. I think that's very true for myself. That it is due to the grief that I deal with, my own illnesses. I mean, it's very clear that, somebody that deals with depression, as I've talked about, the OCD, I think it makes sense in a way that I've become this retro guy and that I've always kind of been like that. Because as my followers know, subscribers know, I have shown songs that I've done back in 2009, stuff that was done back in 2014. It's stuff that I haven't really changed that much in that way. I think that I've been able to carry on creativity and originality in what I'm doing, that musicality and hopefully timelessness in what I do, but I was always that guy. Is it fair to ask, is that a crutch of mine? Why can't this guy just, listen to what's actually happening in music today and, be more reflective of the times we live in? I think in a way I have been an artist that is reflecting current times, because I'm not the only one, either in this decade or the last decade, that was really pining for some of those things that were lost in previous decades, those senses of connection, of the warm and fuzzies. And what's wrong with that? There's nothing wrong with wanting that, wanting to create a space for that. I mean, I look today, even though I'm not quite satisfied with the current place I live, the way that I've set up my living space, it is very nostalgia. I'm very much that guy. And it is tied in with grief. It is related to my pain, my illness. I think that it's healthy for me to talk about it and to share an awareness about it. I don't know whether or not it means anything to anyone. It doesn't really necessarily mean anything to me. I just thought this was such an interesting question to ask, and certainly for me. AJ, what's this all about? If I say I'm an artist of today, yet it's ironic because I am so much placed in the past, and it's actually, in ways I think of it as, dare I say it, educational too, because there are people that have discovered me that, I've turned them on to listening to Carpenters, or digging more into Michael Jackson, or what's that, the Boswell sisters that he's talking about, or wow, that kind of reminded me of Nat King Cole or Perry Como. What was that about? And I love that I get to do that. I love that. I want to do more of that, of sharing with people the great artists that came before. And as time marches on, I think that in ways the past becomes more vivid. You understand more about ancestry and people that came before you, and that they were real people that had real lives and pain and their own stress, their own thoughts and opinions, their beliefs, you can look at it in a different way through the lens of today. And again, I guess why the nostalgia? It's part of my passion and drive and ambition in terms of chasing after sound and going places that perhaps it wasn't quite explored there yet. It would be interesting though, I mean, to contemporize or modernize some of my recordings and remix things so it sounds more like today, but it's an area of fascination for sure. And I'm just never gonna stop being who I am. Over social media and stuff, it might come off maybe even more pronounced than it actually is. But it is definitely part of my artistry. It's part of my life. There's so many aspects about it that I think is actually good. I do think of myself as somebody that is capable of helping to heal some of those dark corners in the world. And not that like I think of myself as the great savior of the world, but just that I'm able to shine a light on aspects that have been forgotten or lost, and that I kind of occupy that space of the rejects, the misfits, the voiceless, the silenced that certainly don't make it to the mainstream of either media or news or entertainment. So, it's hard to say exactly what this is with me. It's not a put on because, yeah, those who know me know, and as I'm hopefully describing here, or what you can pick up, is all these intricate and kind of complex ways that this is woven into my life, my being, my body and soul and my mind. Yeah, I am Andrew Johnson, and this is retro soul, nostalgia, and bringing not only myself, but I think hopefully those who watch me back to a grounded sense of just humanity. It's a tool. As much as I view music as a tool for healing and expression, the nostalgia of the past, that parts of it I'm not even, it's part of my subconscious. Some of it I know I'm probably not quite even consciously aware of it. It's there within me. It's all part of it. And I think it's more of I'm talking in abstract terms here because it is kind of an abstract idea. I have this way with time and just my own perception of time, how I've talked about it and written about it. People who have listened to some of what I've done notice the ways I push and pull with time and can create these very interesting experiences and expression. And, that's part of that drive as a producer. That's the producer part of me that really wants to create something that it's not necessarily new. There's something where I want to innovate and have something that is, making something that's old feel new again. It's refreshed and new, and it's exciting again. It's reinvigorated. It's all very interesting to think about and to step into. I created this. I am this. Andrew A.J. Johnson music. There's no way to get around it. I can't escape it. As the saying goes, no matter where you go, there you are. Yeah, I mean, I still want to keep bringing this back to a place where I'm having fun with this, because I know sometimes with my art and content, things get to feeling heavy and it goes deep because I go deep, but I still want to come back to a place that there is a balance there and there's some light, some fluffiness, I guess, to what I'm putting out there in the world. Or not even necessarily that it has to be rooted in an extreme of the polar. There's also neutral expression, which is Another wonderful thing about nostalgia too is it can come back to a very it can bring you back to a very actual neutral position. Nostalgia can bring us back to that sense of the elevator music or grocery shopping music, ordinary experiences, very mundane, which I love about it too. Anyway, there's so much more there probably I could explore, and I had no idea that this video would be as long as it is because I literally just jotted down like 5 things, and I thought this thing will probably be maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes, I don't know. I can tell in editing already, I can see this is going to be longer than 10 minutes. So that's it for now. I hope that that answers the question of why the nostalgia, man? It's because I'm AJ. I thank you so much for listening to this, and please check out more of my music and videos right here on YouTube and on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, TikTok, Instagram. It's out there. And that's what I like about my art too. I mean, you have to kind of like what you're doing in order to do it for so many years. What I like about it is the way that art, well, and I see it in my art too, it takes on new meaning through new experiences, new events in life. Sometimes I can listen back to myself and certain things can take on a more profound meaning, or it turns into something else, or it just hits you differently. Like my song, I Gotta Do a Lot of Lovin', there's something about it still hits me. And I love that song. I adore that song and love that it came to me. Oh, I shouldn't say this and sound like such a millennial. I know everything here I'm saying, I sound like such a millennial. But it's very special. It's very special. And I enjoy being who I am. Once again, thank you so much. You can like and subscribe and do those types of things if that feels like something you would like to do. I would very much appreciate it. So that's all. So I'll take a breath now. Woo! Geez, Andrew. Okay. Now let's relax. It's another great thing about the nostalgia. It's very, very relaxing as well. Take care. Be well. Bye for now.